I wrote a book which was published in 2012 called The Great Animal Orchestra, Finding the Origins of Music in the World's Wild Places. And it's one of the many fields that soundscape ecology informs. It also not only informs music, but also medicine and philosophy, natural history, architecture, all kinds of disciplines. But music has, because it was my background, I wrote this book about how animals taught us to dance and sing, basically. And it was published in the UK under Profile. And Richard picked up a copy and read it and called me in California and said, you know, any chance we might be able to get together and discuss doing some music based on some of the premises in the book. Well, I said, sure, let's talk about it. He got on a plane, flew to California, and we spent a week going over material. And he was so riveted by the soundscapes that I had recorded, the soundscapes from Borneo, soundscapes from of a beaver that had lost its family and was probably wounded and really lamenting in this mournful cry, you know, that I'd never really heard any animal do before. Different birds that are musical that have never been used in classical music before. And so I was really impressed with his enthusiasm, and we began to work on it, and we've been working for 2 years, worked 2012 to 2014. And voila, we have a symphony, which Richard spent a lot of time on and was very careful with. And I think it brings together all of the ideas that I was talking about in the book in a contemporary format that's also accessible, and that to me is absolutely remarkable and stunning.
I first read The Great Animal Orchestra after I heard it serialized on Radio 4, and I just thought it was a gift to a composer, this whole idea of how the natural world organizes itself in hierarchies of scale, and from the very highest to the very lowest, and so how that corresponds to the highest and lowest instruments of the orchestra. And so I thought it was really worth exploring the idea of writing a symphony based on that. Then I flew over to California to meet Bernie Krause, really not knowing if the idea could work or not. And he played me well over 200 samples from his recordings, his archive of 5,000 hours of recordings taken over, I think, 37 years. And from that started to emerge structures which I felt could form the basis for a symphonic composition. I felt I wanted the thing to appear seamless and effortless, but in fact it took hours and hours of listening to pieces and actually timing them as well. I wanted to see exactly how fast the screaming piha screamed, and it was crotch at 144, so that particular movement can only go at that tempo for it to work. And frogs were actually stridulating in a certain tempo, so there were certain things that were given. The whale came in on a particular B note, and so I started to try to construct musical ideas around what the animals were already doing, and especially the musician wren, which has incredible melody. I just thought, well, I could make a whole theme and variations on that. I knew Jonathan Harvey well, and I knew his concerto for birds and orchestra, piano concerto, but that's tape and treatment of birdsong processed in the course of the piece. But there really was no template for this. Stylistically, I know that there are certain composers that have influenced me in terms of their music, but there was no example I could think of that had combined soundscape textures and keyboard sampling in the way that we've done. And in many ways that was liberating, but it was quite terrifying as well, because I had no idea if the piece could work or not till we actually heard it.
The piece to me I mean, I conduct quite a lot of new pieces, and what I find sometimes frustrating, but in this case very rewarding, is a composer has an idea, a concept, or a vision, or sets himself a task, and whatever the style of the music, be it wildly modern or traditional or anywhere in between, what I find is a good point of judgment is how successful was the composer in fulfilling the task he set himself. Not is it a great piece, is it breaking new ground, but did he actually, or she, do what they set out to do? And I feel with the Great Animal Orchestra, Richard's, he really has done that. Of course, it's a novel and fairly radical idea to combine the sounds from the natural world, played on a keyboard. So the keyboard was like a piano soloist in a sense, and occasionally I was accompanying the piano soloist. But very often the integration was all brilliantly planned in advance. So we had very few moments where any technical coordination difficulties arose, which is, you know, testament to Richard's experience in working with different media, and this side of the piece really worked brilliantly. So it's been a very interesting and fulfilling project right from the word go, and I'm thrilled to have been involved.